What's up, y'all? Welcome to the kayak workshop. This is where I do woodworking and outfit kayaks, and I keep my rods and reels for when I want to go fishing. Now, I've been fishing the near shore Gulf waters of West Central Florida for a long time now. That does not make me an expert just because I've been doing something for a long time. It just means that I have figured out what works for me in the spots that I like to fish. Now, the reason I'm making this video today is because somebody commented, Grant, you asked that I make a video about terminal tackle. So I've been thinking about that an awful lot, and what comes to mind over and over and over again is the stuff that I use every day to catch fish, right? Soft plastics and hard plastics, top water lures, things like that, because that's what I use primarily nowadays. However, I'm like, terminal tackle. I kept getting stuck on that term, so I asked Google. I'm like, Google, what is terminal tackle? And primarily what it came up with, almost exclusively, was the things you use for live bait. Hooks, bobbers, swivels, leader, stuff like that, right? So I'm like, wow, that's not what I thought Grant was asking me. I thought he was asking me what I used to catch fish. And I guess if I were to ask you guys what your opinion is, I would get a lot of different answers. If I asked you, do lures like Spook Jr. and Miradine here, do those things count as terminal tackle? It's tackle. It's at the terminus of my line, right? So arguably yes, I guess. Again, online, it was just like live bait stuff. So I'm bringing that up right at the forefront because, you know, I figured somebody out there would call me out if all I did was talk about my lures. So I'll do both. Here, what you see, I have 6 rods that are 6'6" to 7 foot. I got a couple that are 6 foot now because I kind of chopped off the ends of them accidentally and had to snip them and put new eyes on, so they get shorter and shorter the older they get. But I've got also these 2 real short ones from back in the day. I used to do a lot of fishing under bridges, and those ice rods or dock rods were perfect for that. On my live bait stuff, which is like from here over, I have single hooks, number 1, not 1/0, number 1, circle hooks. A circle hook is nice because when the fish grabs it, the hook will set itself. So that's pretty much all the hooks that I have nowadays. I've got a lot of older hooks that I never use, but they are tied to leader, say 20-pound fluorocarbon, and my main line is 10-pound, 15-pound, maybe. I'll use 15 if I'm fishing a bridge and I know I need a little more abrasion resistance, but if I'm out on the flats and I don't really have to worry about the line hitting anything, I'll go smaller, 10-pound, and that almost never breaks, almost. And it catches some very big fish. I'm talking, I've reeled in tarpon with 10-pound test. So it's really the leader that is closest to the sharp parts of the fish. So that's my setup. If I had to choose one, 10-pound braided line. I'm a fan of the high vis yellow. Even though this used to be yellow, that used to be yellow. They've got some age now to them. That's what it looks like when it's new. And here on the live bait, I've got a heavier, that's 15-pound, and that's how I can tell at a glance. I'll use yellow for the 10-pound, that's 10-pound, the green is 15. So again, if I had to choose one, I would use the high vis yellow 10-pound braided line. That's been my go-to for a long time now. The leader 20-pound is a nice size. It's small enough where the fish won't see it, and yada yada yada. Now, most of the time I like to tie the hook directly onto the line with a clinch knot, onto the leader, that is. Leader to braid, I'll do a uni to uni knot, and a clinch knot for the hook. Sometimes I'll use a bobber, and there are different types of bobbers. You got the Cajun Thunder here, which makes a lot of racket. That has caught me a lot of fish. However, the length to the hook to the bobber is kind of set. So if you're drifting into shallower water and you notice that your bait is getting hung up in the grass, it's more difficult to change that because you have to cut it and retie it, versus a sliding bobber, which, you know, you can slide it up or down, you know, relative to the top of the water. Again, I'm talking about shallow water fishing here, folks. And, you know, if you're fishing 20 feet or 100 foot deep, you know, lakes or something, then this doesn't apply to you. So again, this is my own expertise for where I fish. So for me, a bobber like this with about 2 foot of leader usually works. Back in the day, I would have one that is just a free line. That's braid to fluoro to a single hook, and I would put a bait on there like a shrimp, or if I threw a cast net and I got these little pilchards or something, I'd throw one of those out, free lining. Just let it swim, do its thing. That works really good. If I wanted to be a little bit more lazy, or I was worried about them going and disappearing under the turtle grass or something, I would suspend them from the surface with a bobber. And again, I would use the shorter ones when I was under bridges. If I was on the flats, I'd use the big ones. And that's it. I don't really deviate from that at all. Now, the way I wanted to answer Grant's question for like a couple of weeks now, and I actually went out and I filmed myself fishing with my normal stuff, my normal terminal tackle, is these three. From here over, I have a jig head there with a soft plastic. That's a paddle tail. It's about 3.5 inches long. The jig head, I think, is a 1/8 ounce jig head. I get them at Walmart. And the soft plastics, I've gotten them from various places. That's a Slam Shady. Salt Strong makes those. I've had others that are very, very similar to that. It's just the perfect size. I used that for well over a year, almost primarily. I would go out and use that and catch redfish, snook, trout. Occasionally you might, hook a tarpon with one of those, but jacks, catfish, it catches everything pretty much that you're gonna see out there in the flats down here in Florida. That's for working the bottom. If you work it really, really slow, it'll sink way down. Depending, if you're in a ripping current, it's a little more difficult. You might need a heavier jig head, but that pretty much does what I am up against out there. That does perfect. I can work it real fast and it'll kind of stay on the surface, and I can skip it under trees. I don't have to worry about hooking a tree as much with a single hook like that, and I can rig it weedless. I'm sure you guys know all about that. If, however, I want to cast a little bit further and it's wide open flats, say it's 2 feet, 3 feet deep, and I'm thinking that the fish aren't necessarily down on the bottom, I'll throw a Mirrodine, and I've used various colors. I actually spray painted that one because I like the green top, white bottom, and that little that orange nose. It looks like a wounded fish, and this lure has caught me so many fish, and I love using that. And I'll use it unless I want to pitch under a tree, because the treble hooks are trouble when you're trying to get under structure or something. So then I'll go to the soft plastic. But the Mirrodine is kind of for the middle of the column, okay? If the column's 3 feet, I'll use the soft plastic for the bottom. I'll use the Mirrodine for the middle, so it's going to swim along and be very erratic and shiny and obnoxious, which trout love. Even when trout aren't eating, I feel like they'll attack those things. So that's my go-to for the middle of the column. It used to be Catch 2000, which I feel is a little bit too big. I couldn't tell you what size this is. You can see relative to my hand, I don't know, that's 2 3/4 inch, 3 inches, something like that. That's been the Goldilocks size, and I use that for the middle of the water column. Now, if there's no grass floating on the surface and it's not too choppy, especially early in the morning and late in the afternoon, that's when I love a top water bite. And the Super Spook Junior there in bone. Bone is the color with the silver sides, is just fantastic. You see I put single hooks on there. Those are #1. I think that's actual #1, like a 1/0 inline circle hook. I'm fairly certain that's the size of those. I haven't had to buy them in quite some time, but there's something about a top water bite, man. When you're clicking that thing, walking the dog along the surface, you just, it's really quiet, and you just know at any moment there could be an explosion. Man, that is I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it right now. Love that lure. So that'll be for the top of the water column. So I got the bottom, the middle, and the top, and that is pretty much what I bring. I'll leave the top water home if I only want to take out 2 rods, which I do often. The older I get, the more simple I like to keep my stuff, especially on kayaks. You know, like this kayak right here is 10 feet, and it's got plenty of stuff on it. There's rod holders behind the seat, 2 of them, and that's it. That's it on this boat. I got a cooler in the back. There's room for a rod holder up front if you want, but I'm going through mangrove tunnels all the time, so I try to keep it just really simple. So 2 rods. Grant, if I had to answer your question, like what terminal tackle do I use? I may not be using the term correctly, but my terminal tackle would be a soft plastic on a jig head and a Mirrodine, and that's pretty much what, if you see me out there on the water and you come up and you inspect my tackle, that's what you're going to see, almost always. It's gotten to the point now where, you know, I see that the weather is beautiful, the wind's not blowing, man, I want to get out there. I just grab that and I go. I don't have to stop at the bait shop first. Some places only take cash, and I'm like, oh man, I don't have cash on me, or maybe they don't have the size shrimp I need or want, or then you go out there and you don't catch fish, and now you got, what do I do with this bait? You know, I just spent money on this bait. Yeah, I'm a little bit of a frugal guy, so cheap, whatever you want to call me. And yeah, I don't always you know, want to just throw money away. I don't think anybody really would. Why buy bait if it's not going to work, right? And then you got to keep it alive on a kayak. What do you know, where are you going to keep pilchards? Pretty much you're regulated to shrimp, or maybe if you throw a cast net out there, I mean, you got to bring the cast net, you got to bring a bucket, and you got to worry about the bait dying, getting too hot. Big pain in the butt. You got to worry about birds eating your bait, or getting catfish. You know, that once they start sniffing your bait, man, it's time to move. So the lures really kind of limit the fish that you get. You get less fish, but more of the fish that you're really targeting. Like if I'm skipping under a tree, I'm pretty sure I'm either going to get a redfish or a snook. If I'm working the flats, I'm more likely to get a trout, like in the potholes that are surrounded by grass, you know. Sure, you can get a redfish out there as well, or a snook, but I have gotten over the years pretty proficient at targeting specific species, and I do that with artificials. So that is my terminal tackle. And yeah, if I had to ask you guys a question in this video, it would be, do you think that lures qualify as terminal tackle? I'm also curious what you guys use for your terminal tackle. Grant, thank you for the question. Anybody else, if you have questions, I will try to read all the comments and answer them as best as I can, or make a video for you about that particular subject. Stay tuned. I've got more projects that I've been working on here in the kayak workshop. I think you guys are going to like it. Thanks for watching.